So welcome everyone to the December 22nd, 2020 meeting of the Enfield Blight Review Committee. We could do a roll call with the members we do have present here. Ms. Bosco is absent, I understand. Ms. Prob?
Here.
Craig, sorry.
Right, that's all right.
Councillor Hemler?
Here.
And Councillor Mangini?
Here.
And John Porsic is here as well. So the first item is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on August 12th. I move that by unanimous consent, we adopt those minutes. Any objections?
No objection.
So hearing none, the minutes are approved for our last meeting from August 12th, 2020. So first up, and the only new business of the day, is the application from the property owner, Clinton Anderson, for 14 as Nuntuck Street in Enfield. Traditionally, the way we've done this for the owners who are here is we would like to provide you about 5 minutes of time to explain just casually the basis for your application and any information you think would be important for us to have in making our determination whether to reduce any of the liens. So if you're ready, I'm not sure who wants to speak on behalf of the owner first, but you're free to proceed.
John, you online too as well?
Mr. Sigler, I think you're muted. No, we can't hear you.
There, sorry.
Yes.
So I mean, I think I wanted to keep it simple or short and sweet. I've had a couple of financial kind of windfalls with the property from a tenant that I was kind of forced into evicting after he had stopped paying rent for a period of 6 to 8 months. And then he was kind of unable to maintain the property on for quite a while without rental income coming in. And last December, there was a break-in at the property where they ripped all the copper out of the house. And the house has kind of just been one of those things I haven't been able to take care of because I haven't financially had the money to support myself and my family and maintain the property without rental income. So I have an offer on the house now. A prospective buyer would like to buy it and renovate it and get it occupied again, which nothing makes me happier than seeing it go to good hands. I've been the owner for about 17 years, and the last few have been especially rough to keep tenants that were occupying the place and maintaining their rent payments. So I've kind of fallen behind and taking more money out of my personal income from work to try to sustain that place than I was able to after a period of time. So I guess I got to a point where the amount has superseded what I was able to afford, and it kind of just gotten not forgotten about, but I had to make some choices in life to where I was paying my mortgage and feeding my family and not able to maintain the property up there and get it renovated after the break-in to get tenants in there. And it's sort of fallen apart, sadly, and put a huge financial strain on myself and my family, and extra hours at work needed just to be able to try to maintain that. So I'm, without a big long sob story, it was more of a burden than an investment at some point, and it cost a ton of money to keep it up, more than I was able to make at my job and support my home life. So I got an offer from 2 gentlemen who would like to purchase the property and put the money required into renovating it and get it occupied, get it rented, and make it a good part of the community again. And they seem pretty ambitious to do so. And they're in a financial position to be able to do that, whereas I am not. And I think the only thing that's kind of holding up or making it a challenge to proceed with closing is I'm going to have to pay off the mortgage, obviously, with whatever offer they've come up with, as well as real estate commissions, and then this blight lien, which had been accumulating for the town was kind of an unforeseen, or I don't want to say unforeseen, but an added cost that put me over the threshold for what I had been able to save up the last year and a half to be able to pay the mortgage off with the offer that we've gotten on the house.
Okay. And Mr. Sigler, are you also a property owner, or do you have an
I'm
interest
not
in
an
the
owner.
property?
I'm Clint's agent, and I'm also the buyer's agent. I'm
Okay.
mainly here just trying to support both of them in seeing this hopefully through to a positive resolution, so that Clint can move on, Enfield can move on, and the new buyer can become a new owner and return that back to the state that Enfield would like, and the condition that Enfield, the blight ordinance is there for, and just support both of them in that endeavor.
Okay, thank you. So I see that one of the primary basis, I would imagine, for making this application is the existence of a purchase and sale agreement. And so I've reviewed the agreement, and I think it had a closing date scheduled sometime at the end of October.
Correct.
Has that agreement been amended or updated at all? I guess what I'm asking is the buyer still interested in going forward with this agreement?
The buyer is very much interested in continuing the transaction, and they fully support this. I had thought they would be attending this as well, but they have apparently a conflict right now, but very much, yes, they would like to continue.
And have any of the terms of the purchase and sale agreement changed since this first September contract was signed?
The terms have changed. No, still the same price.
And Mr. Anderson, maybe you can answer this question for me. I gather that you're underwater in this property. Is that correct? The mortgage payoff exceeds the amount of the sale price?
Correct.
Could you give us a
bit.
ballpark of so it's effectively a short sale. Can you give us a ballpark of what that shortfall might be?
So the remaining payoffs as of, well, actually, John, do you know the current remaining payoff? The last time our attorney Rogers,
yeah,
it was around 105,000 for a payoff, and the offer that came in was it 98, the original offer, and the buyers.
The cash to close is about $15,000 from Clint, in excess of what is being paid for the property, and that's notwithstanding this lien. With this lien, it's 22, 23, whatever that is, but Clint's still bringing 15,000 to the table without this lien, and he just doesn't have that 20, 22.
And so is this a short sale that's going to require lender approval, or is the understanding that
15 pays the lender in full? No one's agreeing to take anything less, or the lender's not agreeing to take anything less to complete that transaction. There's no separate person that needs to bless it afterwards.
Okay. Do any of the other council members have any questions?
Is the property been cleaned up for a year?
The grass was, my understanding, was the last problem, and that was last October, November. Clint resolved that issue, and I'm unaware of anything that's happened since. You guys would probably know more.
Councilor Hemler, this is Kasha Perciello. The property has been cleaned since November 12th, 2019, and I did have our property maintenance officers go out and double check that it is currently clean and it is not in violation of the blight ordinance.
Okay, good. And all the sewer fees and property taxes, everything's up to date?
To the best of my knowledge, property taxes are up to date. They're still being paid by the mortgage company on a timely manner. Sewer tax, John, we got that from Jim's office?
That is part of that settlement that the water and sewer bill be paid in full at that point.
At closing.
You're correct.
I'm new to this committee, so if I'm asking a question that's already been asked, please forgive me. Do we have a copy of the purchase and sale contract, or have we received the contract?
Counselor Mangini, this is Kasha Perciello. Yes, I sent around a packet. I believe, I can check my email. I'm not sure which date it was. It was before the original scheduled date of the 18th, but I sent a packet, a confidential packet with information from our office that we have on file, and the purchase and sale agreement and the blight review application.
Since I'm coming in a little late in the game here, would you kindly resend me the purchase and sale?
I am doing that right this moment.
I mean, as a realtor, those are ones that I, find to be important. So I'd appreciate that very much. Thank you.
I want the record to reflect, since we've got a moment to pause here, that Mrs. Bosco has also arrived. So, Jackie. Just so we're all on the same page, the basis for, there were two separate violation periods. One was from June 8th, 2015 to June 19th, 2015, and then a second period from August 27th, 2019 to November 12th, 2019. In both instances, the nature of the violation was overgrowth. Is that accurate, Kasha?
I believe in the period in 2015, I believe that was actually persistent trash and refuse. There's
Okay.
some pictures towards the end of the packet with some furniture outside. And then in the 2019 period, yes, that was grass.
And neither violation resulted in any sort of clean and lean. Is that correct?
There are no clean and leans, no. The reason your form has the two lines filled out, I had Maya Matthews actually cross out the clean and leans line and use that to show the 2015 date. And then the property maintenance lien line is the 2019 property maintenance lien.
So can I ask, so no liens, once he cleaned up the property and stuff, no liens were taken off and no violations had to be paid?
I missed part of that. I might be in an area where I'm cutting in and out a little. I'm over in the Waterbury area.
So as I'm reading these, because you had two separate things, so there were liens put on there and looks like fines. So once the property was corrected, you didn't have to, all the liens or fines were corrected and you didn't have to pay anything?
So the liens are still on, the property maintenance liens are still on the property now. It's a total of 8,073 in property maintenance liens on the property, totaling from both 2015 and 2019. And that has not been paid. Maybe I'm misunderstanding the question.
So I guess that's where I'm confused, because I think, or did we read, the latest ones were if it was kept clean for a certain amount of time, they waived some of them?
So no, if it's, so typically applicants are eligible to come before Blight Review Committee if the property is, or, if the property is clean for 1 year or longer. In the cases where there is a purchase and sale agreement, that 1 year limit does not apply. However, this property is unique and it has both the purchase and sale agreement and it has been clean for a year.
So was there any other contact from, because I've been trying to go through the packet, but was there any other contact with him in the meantime with all of this going on, or has it just come up because there's a sale agreement?
So I'm not sure if I fully understand your question. I believe there was no hearing on the property, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Anderson. Once the property was clean, I don't think typically, there typically would be contact once it's clean. So I'm not sure if I've answered your question. I'm sorry if I haven't. I'm just trying to make sure I understand that.
If I'm understanding the materials correctly, I don't believe that Mr. Anderson challenged either
Right, okay,
either assessment
Right.
during the statutory period.
Correct. I don't believe it came up at all. In fact, the 2015 one that you bring up, you said there was some furniture left outside. Was that, and you have pictures of that? Was it a mattress or something was leaning up against the building? If I recall correctly, the notices for that were being sent direct to the property rather than my address. And I wasn't even made aware of it until a couple weeks had gone by. And I forget the gentleman's name from the town, but I believe his first name was Frank or Francis maybe, had called and informed me of it and said, hey, you got some garbage. It looks like a tenant moved out and left you a mess. And we've been sending you notices, but you haven't replied. And that was the first I had heard of it. And I went up and took care of it right away, like that next day. And he had required that I text him or email him pictures showing that it was done, which I did. And then he had, I guess, closed that or cleared that blight notification. I don't know if any kind of credit was issued or not, or I don't have that information in front of me. I apologize.
So
Go ahead.
So that's good information, Mr. Anderson, that perhaps the notices for that 2015 violation, which if I'm seeing these pictures correctly, it does look like a mattress, some trash, maybe a couch, and some other things were in the yard. So it's possible that for that 2015 violation, your tenants received the notice and you didn't?
Correct.
Okay.
And that was a tenant transition where they moved all their stuff outside, found a new place, and moved before even telling me that they were vacating the place. And I got the call from the gentleman at the town who said, hey, you have some trash that's not being tended to. You know, we've been sending you notices, you haven't answered them, and we're billing you, I think, $75 a day for it. And I said, oh my God, I didn't even know. Thanks for the call. I'll go take care of it today. And he said, just, I'm leaving for the day. Send me some pictures tomorrow showing that you've taken care of it. And I'll stop the $75 a day charge you've been getting for a couple weeks. I'm pretty sure I would have asked him if there was any way to go back and clear that, since I wasn't getting the notices, but I don't know that I was the best at following up on that. So if there's still charges in there from 2015 that are included in that total, that's, probably my misunderstanding or my misunderstanding of the situation.
And so Mr. Anderson, would you say that during the 2015 time period, when that first round of liens accrued, was there some sort of financial hardship that would have prevented you from paying off those liens at that time? Or are you only making the financial hardship claim with respect to the 2019 violation?
To be honest with you, for the past 10 years, the house has kind of dragged me down rather than helped me. It has not been a solid income generating property. I've had some tough tenants. I had one tenant who was Enfield police contacted me and asked if they could go through the basement of the property with an underground x-ray scanner because they thought a member of the family went missing and suspected the boyfriend of my tenant having foul play involved. And he, of course, took off, and then the woman who was my tenant stopped paying rent. And then when she moved on, the tenant I got in after her was a single mom with 3 kids who remarried and was doing fine while they were living there together. And then he took off and she had some hardship, which she passed on to me. And I don't know, maybe I was terrible landlord or terrible property owner and didn't have the heart to press charges or pursue throwing out a single mom with 3 kids trying to make a living and working 2 jobs and going to school. So I let her slide a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit here and a little bit there. And she was the last tenant in unit 16. And when she moved out, she had about 6 or 7 months of rent that she owed me in total, little bits just chipping away along the way. So I was never really, I don't know, is that a soft side, call it, but that soft side, caused me financial hardship and kind of shared that with the tenant. And the tenant on unit 14, the side that was really the side that I think caused the blight, you know, very noticeable blight, the side with all the bushes and the hedges, was a tenant that was in there when I bought the property in 2003. There's two tenants in there who were in there until, you know, until that break-in. And he never really took care of anything at the house and had a tough time paying. And when his roommate moved out, he was really unable to pay rent and heat and electricity. So he always chose heat and electricity first. And he's the tenant that through eviction proceedings, judge felt bad for him, let him stay 6 months without paying. And I totaled it up when he moved out, when he was finally evicted, when I was awarded the eviction order against him. He had in total 11 or 13 months of rent unpaid, and he was at a rate of only $675 a month for that entire unit number 14. So that right there in itself cost me a huge, huge financial windfall in keeping up the property. I was pulling money out of, you know, instead of paying my mortgage on time, to pay the mortgage and the taxes there. And there wasn't really any money left over to, you know, take care of anything, to do maintenance there, to fix things up, to improve the property, to pay someone to get up there and take care of it. And usually I work about 7 days a week. I mean, 6 days a week on a slow time of year. I run a retail store and an installation crew for playgrounds and backyard ice rinks and jungle gyms and all kinds of fun stuff. But we work around the clock. So it was time to get up there, but also money to be able to pay someone to get up there wasn't coming in because of my windfalls with, I don't know, bad luck with tenants, or being too generous or too lenient with tenants, or, you know, whatever the case may be, whatever you want to call it. Hindsight is 2020, but I did not have enough operating capital coming in to cover the expenses of that place, mortgage and taxes alone, let alone maintenance, upkeep, repair, you know, and those kind of things. So I would very much like to see it go into the hands of someone who's dedicated and motivated, both time-wise and financially, who can keep the property up, fix, you know, repaint it, get windows in there, get the copper pipes that were ripped out in the break-in fixed, and get some tenants in there and have it be an, you know, hopefully an income generating property for them. And like the house that's next door to me was bought by someone in the same condition or similar condition back in 04 or 05. They turned it around, fixed it up, got two tenants in there, and it's been a livable, you know, 2-unit house for the last 15 years. And mine for the last 10 has really been a struggle for me to keep up on my own. And, you know, these problems that kind of snowballed that I maybe didn't take care of or didn't have the means to take care of on time have now kind of snowballed up at the end when I have a purchase offer on the house, to where I'm getting beyond my means to be able to move forward with the sale. And I don't want to be in a position where I have to just lock the keys in the door and walk away and foreclose. I don't think that does anybody any good. You know, I'm probably the worst recipient of the bad news on that decision. But, you know, I think these guys who want to buy it and fix it up and have the means to do so will probably do so very quickly, and in their financial interest to get it turned around and begin generating income for them. Whereas I'm not in a position to invest probably 60, 70, 80,000, whatever it may be, to get it turned around and fixed up and rentable, to where I could on my own get tenants back in there and sustain, you know, it as a property, as a viable property.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Does anyone else from the committee have any questions for the owner or his agents? Okay, I think we can close the public portion and maybe mute Mr. Anderson and his agent so the committee can discuss his application. So does anyone have any initial thoughts?
I think it's a good opportunity to get the property in better shape and give him some relief.
So to me, we've been going by the rough guideposts that in looking at these applications, we have been attributing 12.5% to each factor that the applicant selects and we feel is supported by the evidence. In that case, that would only be 25% here, which I'm not sure that necessarily accomplishes that goal of having the property sold quickly and put into the hands of somebody who might rehabilitate it. So I would personally be in favor of deviating upwards for several reasons to get a little bit more relief in this case, just knowing that the property is going to be sold and hopefully rehabilitated. And so I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that.
I have a question. With a prospect with a contract apparently intact, whose due diligence is it to check references or credit or background of the new prospective owner of this and any other properties that come forward, that we don't fall back into a similar situation?
It really hasn't been within our purview to investigate the background of the buyers. Frankly, we have limited resources to be able to do that. I think it's a nice thought, but I think it might be a little outside of the scope of how we've typically handled these applications.
Let me just maybe just rephrase that a little bit. Do we check the banking information when a contract comes forward to verify that in fact the person has the funds, if it's cash, or to verify if the potential buyer is creditworthy to in fact receive a mortgage? I mean, do we do our due diligence in that respect?
We have not been reviewing that information in connection with these applications. The most important piece of information that we've been reviewing is whether or not we believe there is a legitimate purchase and sale agreement in place, whereby we think that the property will change hands. But in terms of creditworthiness or background checks of the prospective buyer, that has not been traditionally part of our analysis.
So if that's the case, how do we know for certain that the contract, I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds here, but that in fact the contract is valid and a good solid contract? And as a realtor, you know, what we do in the real estate business is we first thing, if you have a seller, you pick up the buyer's prospected banking information, and you call the bank and just verify that this person in fact does have a line of credit that would cover the cost or the purchase, or if the person is coming forward with cash, has the bank or is it willing to stand behind the person stating that they do in fact have that cash? I just don't want to see the town getting into jumping from one, frying pan into another is where I'm going with this.
I'm a real estate attorney myself, so I completely understand where you're coming from. It's just our analysis has traditionally focused more on the behavior of the applicant rather than being forced to speculate somewhat about the creditworthiness or the person who's buying the property. I mean, it's something that, if we, as a board going forward, we're having issues with that sort of thing, I think that would be entirely appropriate. But sitting here today, we don't have that information, and it just has not been traditionally part of our business.
Well, thank you for that, because like I said, I am new, to the committee. I'm just trying to get a feel for how we operate. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
His realtor is still here, correct?
Yes.
So, I mean, to me, he's here, and obviously he's, going to bat for this guy and the purchaser. So to me, I mean, it seems pretty legit. You can't do any worse than what we have right now, so to speak. To me, Merry Christmas. To me, you gotta do what you gotta do. This guy seems like he's drowning. It's not gonna get any better. And I guess, I don't think the realtor would be going through all this if it didn't seem legitimate and it was gonna improve. So I'm looking at it like this guy is drowning. It's not gonna get any better for him. And yeah, we take that leap. We agree to waive what we need to. And hopefully, the people coming in, they're going to do something with it. But we can't be any worse position that we're really in right now.
It
That's how
looks
I
to
feel.
me, it looks to me like they seemingly already have a mortgage. The people that are buying it seemingly have a mortgage already. They've contracted for a mortgage. Am I not correct?
I would say, yeah. So
Purchase contract, they have a mortgage. So obviously someone did some due diligence and figured out that they can afford this mortgage. So don't we just take that at face value that they have a mortgage?
So in reading this contract and based on the thumbs up from the realtor, there was a mortgage contingency in this contract that I'm assuming has been satisfied, which means that the lender has put themselves out there saying that yes, we will advance the funds as long as all the other closing conditions are met. The other thing I just want to point out for the benefit of the committee is this does appear to be a renovation loan. So the lender is also going to be advancing funds in excess of the purchase price to actually put cash in hand of those of the buyers, so they can immediately make those renovations to the property. So that's another thing for us to consider here today. Kasha, I don't know if this is putting you on the spot a little bit. Is there any way, I don't know if you've got any additional information to determine how much of the total lien, the $8,073, how much of that is attributable to the 2015 violation and accrued interest?
Sure. So the $675 plus a $24 lien fee is from 2015. From 2019, you're looking at $7,350 and a $24 lien fee.
So is it correct that 2015, the outstanding balance at 675 hasn't accrued any interest over time?
No, it hasn't. They at the time in 2015, once the property is cleaned, that's where it stopped. That lien, actually, if you look in your packets, that's a correcting lien. Okay. Originally, I think that part of the confusion that went on a little longer, and then at the time, I guess they realized that as of June 19th, the property was clean. So it went from June 8th through June 19th. So it's only a very short amount of time. And no, once that stops at that point, that's when the $75 a day stops accruing when the property is cleaned.
On my end, I can say that I was understanding of the fact that the notice that it's a very short violation time period for the 2015 violation, and it did seem to be corrected timely once the owner received notice. So that's certainly important to the extent we look at behavior of the owner in these meetings. That's compelling to me.
I agree.
Also, I agree. You can see he seemed to jump right on it, and he seems like a pretty honest guy. So, I mean, if he wasn't too caring about it, he wouldn't even, it took a matter of days. So that shows something.
So does anyone have any specific thoughts about, I think we seem to be on board that there's going to be some level of reduction. What are people thinking for an appropriate amount in this case?
Well, I'd actually like to waive the whole thing, only because it doesn't seem to me that it's once he goes through the sale, he's going to be paying it off. He's not going to be making any money. This is going to make the process go quicker, so we can get somebody that's going to renovate. So that I'm on the side of let's give him a clean break.
I would agree with Kelly on that.
Thanks, Cindy.
I will point out, just for the benefit of everyone here as a refresher, our jurisdictional limit is $10,000. We can waive up to $10,000 without town council approval. And so that full amount would be under the amount that would need town council approval. Any other thoughts about amounts, or where we would want to end up on this?
I would like to see this property sold so that somebody can get in there and fix it. And it doesn't sound to me like if we don't waive this, this purchase and sale agreement might not happen because he can't come to the table with enough money to be able to try, allow him to sell that property.
I tend to agree. I mean, in my personal experience doing these sorts of deals, that that sort of financial hardship, when somebody's got to bring money to the table to close, to sell one of their properties, is often, a way that things can go seriously awry. So to the extent we think it's an important feature of this application that new owners are going to come in with renovation funds in hand to fix up the property, waiving the full amount would be definitely beneficial to helping this property close.
Okay, do you need a motion, John?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to waive the entire fee. I don't know if am I supposed to say more?
I think that's sufficient. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. And could we do a roll call vote then? Ms. Bosco.
Merry Christmas. Yes.
Mrs. Prigg.
Yes.
Councillor Mangini.
4.
Councillor Hemler.
4.
And I vote yes as well. So the motion passes, and we have waived the entire lien fee of $8,073.
All right. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Hearing nothing further on this, with unanimous consent, I'd like to move to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn, and Merry Christmas, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Good luck, Mr. Anderson.